Happy 4th. What's going on? What's going on? Dare I date myself and say making copies? It has been a while, as you expected me to say. Mm-mm-mm. But what a performance. Performance? For anybody who gets that reference, you are definitely as old as I am. Saturday night, holy shit, what do you say about first of all, Dan Ige, that's where I'm going to start with this because, by the way, yeah, to all people watching, got to give a shout out to the place I used to go to every 4th of July, Fertile Myrtle, as I call it. So does my girlfriend. No, seriously, that used to be my destination every 4th of July. Definitely miss it, but I am now down in Florida and it is just as humid down here. Holy tits. It has been. Eh. So, yeah, I'm getting the Myrtle experience where I'm at currently. I definitely like doing that every year, having something to plan around, the same thing. It was always fun, but it was always nice to be like, okay, I'm locked into this. I don't have to make plans that particular holiday when I was in my young 20s a decade ago. But yeah, getting back to so obviously the big story was Alex Herrera's knockout, but you got to give credit to a guy who's getting a massage with his family on a Saturday afternoon at 3 p.m. Hey, you want to come fight during International Fight Week, by the way, which starts in about 7 hours. And same for Diego Lopes. I mean, that's the biggest story I thought of that fight card. I love how I did this, by the way. If anybody's ever seen that Carlin bit where he's like, folks, you don't have to give me this. I understand. We're talking about a telephone. But yeah, I mean, Dan Ige is getting a massage, right? And jumps up and steps in there and actually wins the final round. You could tell that Lopez was just holding on for dear life at the end because, I mean, he put it all out there the first two rounds, had to just be an. I don't know how you go in there as emotionally drained as he probably was and fight the way he did, but he did. And got the job done. Now, do I think Ige is going to rematch him? Absolutely. Is that going to be on the Sphere card? No question. Do I see it going any differently? I don't, and I don't want to discredit Dan Ige because he's as tough as they come. But I mean, Lopez right there. I don't think he gave out his the game plan he's going to have next time is going to be so much different to where I don't think it's going to be the same fight. Now, I think next fight, I'm making maybe a bold prediction of some, but I see him getting, I can see that ending in either a knockout or a submission, but I'm, yes, leaning towards Lopez in that fight. I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's a submission victory, but I'm picking Lopez in that rematch. And obviously, there were a couple just. It sucks because I love Orlovsky. I remember the first time I saw him was in high school on, of all things, bully beatdown, which is probably not, if he ever was to listen to this, where he'd want to want to be identified from, but he did not have the best fight against Bidet, and it was time for him to be let go. But the guy deserves credit because Arlovsky's a savage, and I mean to be fighting as long as he has been against contenders. I'm not going to sit here and say that he's fought against championship material fighters in a long time, but he's fought against good competition. That was just a crazy night for people who have watched this game for God. I mean, now I've watched it over 20 years, probably around that amount of time, something like 21, 22 years, I want to say. I don't know. I definitely by 2005, 2004, I was watching the UFC. So right around 20 years, but to see somebody like Andre retire, to see Michelle Watterson retire, it's just, and this is all before, which also, by the way, Brennan Ward retired. Salute to all three of you. I mean, absolute goons. They have had, you got to give them credit. I mean, past their prime, but oh geez, and the ones who beat them, I was not surprised. I mean, Jillian, such a savage on the ground, and she showed it. But yeah, you have in another promotion, Brennan Ward retired. So crazy night of fights and fight news altogether. Before Poatan goes and, I mean, whatever level is above starched, man, that was difficult to watch because Yuri's a good dude. And I mean, he looked rattled before that damn fight started, which was just, I had never seen anything like that to where, and not only does he clean his clock at the end of that round, go in and immediately drops him to start the next round, but breaks his toe doing it and is just walking around afterward. And Connor giving him his props. I mean, a lot of people I know didn't even want to see Connor on that card, but it felt like that card was just, it was lackluster until we got to the co-main event and the main event, which isn't that kind of what the UFC is all about? You build your name, like Connor said at one time. The UFC's got to build up all the schmooks, but it's, that's being harsh, of course, but fuck, it's kind of true. You got to build your name. You got to just pad your record. I mean, I hate to give credit to Jake Paul, but at least, he's doing it in an exciting way, padding his resume clearly because, is Tommy Fury somebody who is world champion material? I don't think so. Don't take it from me. I've heard it said by plenty of fighters, boxers, UFC fighters. I mean, the list goes on and on for the people who have said that about the opponents he's fought. But it's exciting because you're tuning in, and that's what was happening on that card. Was it was just nothing was really gripping you, and unless you're a dedicated fan, you don't really know a lot of those fighters. And then Ige goes in and just, man, to win a round at the end was so impressive. And then you get to Poatan having his McGregor and Dublin moment. You get to Habib at UFC 229, like that kind of moment. I'm trying to think of comparable moments where it just stood out that like this is a star right before our very eyes. I mean, UFC 229, I don't think is a good example because of how it ended the melee, but you get what I'm saying, where it clearly a star was born before your very eyes and they stood out and they had already been winning, so you had them on your radar. I just, man, the UFC's marketing is crazy, but damn it, the fights, sometimes they do deliver, but sometimes it's just, man, like the lack of PR for Adesanya and Duplessis' press conference was just. I fell asleep watching this thing last night. I don't say that to be like it was that boring. It was just I happened to catch that right as I was going to sleep, so I was listening, trying to stay awake, and I finished it in the morning. But I just, yeah, I mean, that kind of came out the way it did. I fell asleep watching this. It was just not appealing in any way, shape, or form. Them sitting there talking, and I mean, the matchup sells itself. I'm so excited to watch Izzy fight Duplessis. I didn't need a press conference to get me hyped, but you got to look at it through the new fans' perspective. You got to look at it through those shades because I know who Dricus Duplessis is. I've watched him since before Darren Till and all these things that have happened to him since. I mean, becoming a champion 6 days after he turned 30 years old is, I mean, the guy is an impressive fighter. So I think people are definitely saying, yes, Sean won that fight against him, but Duplessis is still a damn ferocious cat. And I think that he's going to give Izzy all he can give him. But if he allows Izzy to get comfortable with his hands, the way Strickland was using that jab into the fifth round, folks, it's going to be a long night. I don't know who I'm taking in that fight yet, so please don't ask me in the comments or DM me anything having to do with. I will pick a winner the day of that fight, but wow, that is going to be some fireworks. And the people who are sitting there saying it should be Sean Strickland, and Sean himself has said, no, I don't want to fight Whitaker. Guys, get over it. Izzy deserves this fight. I stand by that statement until the very end because that's an active champion, and I don't think, even though Connor has been who he's been in recent years, he was a very active fighter for a long time there, and I agree. I mean, it was disappointing to not see him defend belts, but it's very true that we have not seen a champion, especially this active. I don't know if there's some that I'm forgetting in the moment here. Please forgive me, but and not to mention that card you have Kai Kara France and Steve fighting each other. That's going to be. You could tell that. Man, I felt for Steve losing to Pantoja because you could tell he knew that fifth round. It was like, oh, my foot on the gas a little more, and I'm in Mexico 5 minutes earlier. That kind of I just outrun the law. But it's true, man. He got just was a little bit flat in that last round, and you can tell he's not okay with that. He even said that in the press conference. I do not accept losing, as you shouldn't. That's a champion's mentality. That's if Kobe were still here, he would say that. From him to any of the Patrick Mahomes. I mean, all these people in sports, that's the way an athlete should think, but especially a championship minded athlete. They don't accept that kind of performance. And so many guys and girls would kill to have that kind of PR and to have that kind of performance in a championship fight. And I watched that from start to finish, that Pantoja fight. I could not tell you one other fight on that card other than I know, which he also fought on the card this past weekend. Anthony Smith fought on that Pantoja card, which, man, I get his name wrong, but Roman, uh, I'm blanking the guy that beat him. I don't know if it was strange, and I know DC was commenting on this in the middle of their fight, but it was like Anthony took his foot off the gas and was just comfortable on the bottom there. And I mean, people hate on Anthony Smith and the Bisping, of course, gets hate. I mean, let's be honest, he brings some of it on himself. Bloody goddamn hell. But it is true. But Anthony Smith is not that bad a guy. Do I see him beating Poatan? No, I don't. I don't even see that fight happening. But I mean, Anthony's a goon, and he's got a ground game that you do not want to sleep on. Case in point, the Pantoja card. He got a submission when it was like nobody expected it to end that way, and it did. I mean, but he just, man, I almost forgot all about that fight. It was just like, what is Anthony doing at one point in time on the ground where he was just was like, is he regaining his energy? Because that's what I think he was doing. I need to go back and watch, but he had slipped up and it wasn't a takedown. And I think Roman kind of like he thought he was more hurt than he really was, and you could see he was trying to finish, but Anthony was not. He was still with it. He wasn't concussed. It was just I don't know. Is it Anthony Lionheart's Anthony Lionheart Smith's time to retire? Let me know what you think in the chat, guys. But man, the fights to make, obviously, I'm taking. It's hard to pick against Poatan, but I am gonna pick Magomed in that fight. But I do think there will be a rematch. We'll see how the first one goes, and then I'll pick the rematch winner. But yes, I'm picking Magomed. I mean, he's even with the resume, except one more KO and is a little bit younger. If it goes to the ground, man, that's going to be interesting because Poatan, we really have not seen him in a war on the ground, and if that's the way it's going to be played, going to be interesting. But if Poatan gets comfortable, it could be a very, very long night for Magomed Ankalaev. But we're going to see how these fights play out, and I do have a very special guest coming on from the MMA media world. Can't wait to drop that date and let you know who that guest is going to be. But he has covered the sport for years and one of the biggest names in MMA media. I also have a college baseball player jumping on this show. That'll be dropping next week at 4 p.m. Monday afternoon. Um, Guy who I think you will enjoy hearing from, Forrest Havanis. He is a he's played at Marietta College, and that's a school that's very competitive in baseball. I can't wait to have him on to just hear more about the being a college athlete these days and what the schedule is like and going viral in that tournament. I mean, it's a different world than when my buddy played college sports, specifically baseball 10 years ago. Like, does that ever cross your mind that you could be all over the internet the next day? Shout out Hawk Tua. I no, I can't wait to drop that show for you. And Friday have a an episode coming to you. It's my NBA draft grades, handing out the report cards. Obviously, the team dominating headlines is, you guessed it, Frank Stallone. No, but it's true that it's all Lakers. The podcast, the rumors are true. Seriously, though, I mean, that's why talk about any other team. But we're gonna see, man. JJ Redick being there, God, that's. I I have so many thoughts on that whole situation, but especially Redick being their coach is just, as a lifelong Duke hater, I'm gonna try and not be biased, but guys, thank you as always for tuning into my shows. I try and drop these pods for you every week. I had a normal time that I used to do these at Monday at 4 p.m. and I try to just reserve that now for twice a month at least, and just sprinkle the interviews in there. And I think you're gonna like the guest I have coming on. I definitely can't wait to talk about upcoming UFC fights. Plenty of big PFL action too. I mean, there's the Fabian Edwards fight. There's so much good stuff coming up soon enough here in about a month and a God, not even a month and a half is preseason football, meaning college football is right around the corner as well. We just ended the year a loser. I'll admit my pick was incorrect. The Florida Panthers got it done. Congratulations, guys. I mean, if they would have lost that series, if the Florida Panthers were to have blown that series, wow. And my neighbors were definitely, I know there were parties all around where I was, but me being the absolute bitch that I am, just me being older now, I was not out there drinking with them, but I definitely was happy to see Florida get a win. I mean, uh, Canadian hockey team, how is it that they have not won a title since '93? I don't understand that at all, but so be it. Congratulations to the Florida Panthers, my best friend's favorite hockey team, and to all the fans of that team. You finally have a ship, and the state is not run by the Lightning anymore. Well, it kind of is, but you know what I mean. Thank you all for tuning in, and yes, I will see you on Friday with the newest episode. Come on back next Monday. I'll also be here, and hope you do not blow any limbs off tomorrow. Make sure that you have your cake and do not eat it with fireworks disguised as candles, too, because that can get a little bit. What's the word? You don't want that kind of frosting on your cake. Anyway, America.